Hi everyone, hope you are well. I am here today to have a bit of a different, courageous conversation with the lovely Kayla,
Hi.
who many of you will know. Kayla is part of the team here at the House of Hope, and Kayla has been living with breast cancer in her life in some shape or form for around about 20 years
now, yeah.
which
Since my first diagnosis, yeah.
which is an incredibly long time, and we thought today we would maybe talk a little bit about Kayla's journey with breast cancer and also about recurrence and how you cope with that fear of recurrence and how you move on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a fear that a lot of people
Yeah.
have, is how do you move on from a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us a wee bit more about your kind of journey and how the breast cancer intertwined itself into your life when you were so young?
Definitely. So back in 2005, when I was 20 years old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my right breast. So back then, 20, I didn't even know you could get it when you were 20, so a massive, massive shock. So treatment from that was a lumpectomy, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and I was on tamoxifen for 5 years. Everything was fine with that. Obviously dealing with the diagnosis was very hard. The similar things to what I hear from a lot of ladies. Going through the treatment, you're just focusing on getting to the end, and then at the end of it you go, oh my goodness, what happened? So mentally, back then when I was first diagnosed, there wasn't as much support about than there is now. So that was actually really tough. And being 20, I don't think I ever came across anyone in the hospital that was younger than 50, to be honest. So I didn't have anyone that understood. My friends were going to uni, starting jobs, starting families, and I was in the hospital having chemotherapy, and yeah, it's not nice. Massive bombshell, completely turned my life upside down.
How did you talk about being obviously so young, and to discover breast cancer at that age, how did you actually discover?
Yeah, so my husband, he was my boyfriend of less than a year at that point, and it was him that found the lump.
Wow.
So my lump was the size of a pea, and it felt like a bone.
Right, okay.
And I was never big chested, so it was easy to find. And as much as in the press it's always put as a older person's disease, you still are very much aware to get yourself checked. So got checked straight away, and thankfully the GP listened to me, because I know that can be a concern for a lot of young ladies.
It can, and I think, I was a bit older than you when I was diagnosed, but I was 33 at the point of diagnosis, and when I first went to the GP, I was told it's nothing to worry about, it's just hormonal. And I think that's a fear for a lot of people, isn't it, that when you are young that you feel you're going to be fobbed off in a sense. What advice would you give to, if there were young people that were watching this that maybe have a concern about a change in their breast? What advice would you give them to kind of empower them to?
Definitely. So get it checked, obviously, but if your GP or anyone that tries to tell you you're too young, that is not true. Even take this video once it's out and show people this actually does happen. Through my volunteering over the years with younger ladies, I've heard horrible stories of ladies trying to go to GPs 2 and 3 times because they just won't listen to them, and it's taken them longer to get diagnosis, and sometimes it could have been a better outcome if they'd listened to them first time. Just keep going with it. If your GP doesn't listen, get someone else. Just keep pushing it, because GPs think, and they do a wonderful job, but sometimes they think they know better than yourselves when we know our bodies.
And I think that is the hard thing, that GPs obviously do such a fantastic job, but they're dealing with so many different people, aren't they? And when you don't fit the stereotype of what breast cancer we think looks like, because I don't know about you, but I always thought it was, it's an older woman's disease, and it was something that I didn't need to worry about, and you almost think, well, it's never going to happen to me. And I guess when you're presenting at a GP, obviously there is that initial thing of, well, you're young, so
Yeah.
you don't fit that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right that breast cancer can impact anybody
Mm-hmm.
at any age. And mentally, as a young woman, you know, being so young,
Mm-hmm.
how did you deal with that? You know, truthfully, where did your mental health go in terms of being able to process and carve out your identity, which was stripped away at such a young age?
Yeah, that's really true actually. So yeah, being 20, I'd not long left school and I was just working in offices and hadn't really thought about life, enjoying life with my boyfriend at the time, having fun, and then having this, it was very difficult being that young because, as I say, there was no one around me that understood what it felt like, even my closest family and friends, but because they'd never been through it, they don't understand. So I did have a lot of help from charities, but it was very, very isolating, and that's what I remember, is the isolation and the fear and the worry and the not being able to sleep, and over the few years after it, the crippling fear that I used to have, worrying it would come back. Was just horrendous, literally crippling fear. It was horrible. So I did have a lot of support, but I feel, looking back, I feel like I probably could have done with more support than what I had. I felt like I had to get myself through a lot of it because it felt so isolating, and there's that way of, you don't want to put all your worries on your closest friends and family because they're going to worry about you. So I felt like even though there was support there, I couldn't really voice how I really, really felt. So that was inside me for a very long time. You're almost protecting them, aren't you, in a sense, that you don't want to worry them, because they're probably worried enough when they hear that you've had a breast cancer diagnosis. And you mentioned some of the charities that supported you, and do you want to explain, you know, because obviously here in the House of Hope, you know, we are based in Scotland, and you know, there may be people that are watching this, you know, throughout the UK. So do you want to tell us a wee bit more about some of the charities? I know you've done some great work with breast cancer now and the younger women. So do you want to tell us a wee bit more about that? Yeah, sure. So Breast Cancer Now, I have been a volunteer with them for 16 years, and when I first started volunteering, the breast cancer care before the merger, and I've done a lot of different services with them, but the one service I've always helped them with and still do is the Younger Women's Together. So they hold like a 2-day event all around the country, and it just brings ladies 45 and under together for 2 days for different sessions, but it just gives them that chance to be together, because as I say, when you're in the hospital you don't usually meet younger ladies. No, you don't, and I think having groups like the Younger Women Together, and we will make sure that we put links to Breast Cancer Now in this video as well, and you could also send us a message to the House of Hope page, and you know, Kayla would be happy to signpost to the Younger Women meetups. And it is something that I think finding your tribe is so important, isn't it? And it can be really difficult when you're young to find that. And I noticed when you were speaking there that when we were talking about that fear of recurrence, that you used the term "I used to." So, and I, it's something that, you know, really, I guess, interested me as to, do you ever get to that point that you're not scared? So I've had 2 diagnoses of breast cancer. So my first breast cancer, I did get to the point where I wasn't scared, and it was just before my daughter was born. So she was born in 2014. So I would say a year or 2 before that, I remember feeling so at peace, or I thought I was so at peace. But I did feel so at peace, and I wasn't worried anymore. I think when I got to the 5-year stage past it, because that's what everyone tells you, 5 years cancer free, that's supposed to be you kind of thing. I felt like it was, a weight was taken off a little bit. The fear was still there, but I do remember feeling more at peace just before my daughter was born. And then once she was born, even though it was really hard being a first time mum and everything, it's obviously been amazing as well, but I remember, so 2 years after my daughter was born, I was diagnosed with a separate breast cancer in my other breast. And the one feeling I remember having before getting diagnosed again was how happy and peaceful and how great life had become again after my first diagnosis, after having my daughter, and then it just happened again, and it was just a bit, just felt rubbish and unfair.
And I mean, that's to put yourself in that position, to have gone through having breast cancer so young, and then to have fallen pregnant, which in itself, when you've had breast cancer, treatment would have been a mental, challenge.
Yeah.
And then to be told that you'd had a new diagnosis, how did you cope with that?
That was very difficult. I can still remember sitting in the room with my breast care nurse, and I can still remember the feeling that I got. It was the same feeling I had the first time I was diagnosed, and it was just this really dark feeling that came over me, and I remember thinking, I can't go through this mentally again. And I remember saying that to my nurse. And I went, I could do the physical stuff, I know what I'm in for. I went, but I can't go through that emotionally again.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, well, it is a bit more different now, there is more support, but that's the worry I had when I was diagnosed again. I can't put myself through that, it's too hard.
And you did put yourself through that. And I think people watching this will see the strength and character that you have, to be able to talk openly about it. I know it takes time. And it's something that we have to work towards, and I think it can be easy to watch things like this when you see people that have lived experience, and you can sometimes watch them and think, but I'm not there yet.
Definitely.
It's okay to feel that way. And what steps, if you could give kind of a top 5 of tips for people that are struggling to maybe take that step from, okay, I've finished my treatment and I'm trying to integrate back into normal life. I mean, I don't know what normal is, but life post treatment. What would be your top 5 tips?
Biggest thing, and I hate saying it because I know in the moment it doesn't help, but time really is a big thing that helps. Time, because I remember both diagnoses, you wake up every day thinking about it, you think about it every second, and then later on, a few months, you maybe think about it every hour, and then over time it does go away. It does lessen a little bit with time. I think I wasn't kind to myself after my first diagnosis, so I made myself, for about the 10-year 11 gap that I had, be very, very grateful to be alive, and I didn't register how awful that was that it happened to me. So and I know this from counselling after my second diagnosis, I kind of shut down my feelings because I was sick of feeling sad all the time. But because of that, obviously I wasn't feeling happy, truly happy either, because I was so scared of being sad anymore. I'd had enough, I just didn't want to do it. So I was the greatest grateful person ever, and
which is exhausting.
It's exhausting, very exhausting and very unhealthy, because I wasn't
absolutely
dealing with anything. So for the second diagnosis, I didn't go to counselling for my diagnosis, it was for different reasons, but that's what came out, was my diagnosis. I hadn't dealt with my first diagnosis properly, and this was after my second diagnosis that I went, and it was my first diagnosis that was coming up through counselling. And
counselling is something that, I mean, when I talk to people in the breast cancer community, and like yourself, I'm quite open about the impact on mental health, and there is no shame attached to counselling, and I think it's really important that we break that stigma around it, because when you're internalising all these feelings and you're dealing with something that, we're talking about your mortality, cancer, this is, something serious that has impacted your life, and it, like you, it took me time to go to counselling, and I'm still going through counselling, and I think because having a stage 4 diagnosis, I think that will be something that's part of my life. But I do think that everybody that goes through breast cancer, probably whether we realise it or not, does need an outlet.
I would agree with that.
And you mentioned counselling there. How would you suggest that people take that step, break that fear that we've got, and that it's like a shame,
it is,
which is crazy, because as women, we deal with so much, we juggle so many things, but when it comes to actually, talking about our own mental health, so how can people take that step to get support?
So for myself, as I say, I went into counselling for different reasons, and that's what came out. If anyone does think about counselling and that it might not work or might not help or there's no need for it, counselling completely changed my life to the point where I actually trained, and I'm now a trained counsellor as well. But that's how much that impact it had on me.
That's incredible.
But seeking out a counsellor can actually be quite difficult because, so for myself, it's can be quite hard because obviously it's challenging for money.
Yep.
And it's challenging for maybe areas that you stay in, if counselling's available, if you have to pay for it, if it's free. The best thing to do is go on websites. So the best one I would say is the counselling directory. So it gives you a list once you put in your postcode, what you're looking for, and it brings up all the counsellors around you, and then you're able to actually look through like lists of counsellors, and then you're able to, you can contact all of them if you want, and they'll get back in touch with you.
Yep.
And then you can pick who you feel more suited with. That's probably the best way I would say to do it.
Amazing. And you know, we were talking about your kind of top 5, so we've got counselling.
Yes.
Is definitely right up there.
Yeah, counselling, definite time, even though
Yeah.
you can't really do anything about that, unfortunately. Counselling time, all the support out there that's there. I know a lot of ladies sometimes feel I don't need that because I'm fine now.
Yeah.
Or I haven't had chemotherapy, so I shouldn't be getting that.
And we hear that quite often here in the House of Hope of, you know, women almost belittling their breast cancer because they haven't gone down a certain treatment path. And I just find that crazy because regardless of whether your initial, you know, DCIS cells and or whether you're stage 4, it's still breast cancer.
Yeah, still a diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, completely. Definitely take all the support. My lifeline was breast cancer now at that point.
Yeah.
If I wish the House of Hope was about when I was diagnosed. I would have
Me
been
too.
here all the time. I really would have. It's just such an amazing space to have. But definitely take the support, and it doesn't matter how far down the line you are as well.
Yeah.
Even if you're 10 years down the line and you're still struggling, that's why the support's there. It's still for you as well. You don't have to be just diagnosed to take the support.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you have talked about that quite often, even in this conversation about how it sometimes presents itself further down the line, and you know, never feel that just because you're finished treatment, because actually sometimes when you're in active treatment you're so focused on, I've got to get to chemo, I've got my radiation, and it's only when you come out the other side of it that actually the reality of that diagnosis starts to hit, doesn't it? And I think that can take time, and you know, as you say, like breast cancer now, fantastic support, Maggie's centres, Future Dreams in London, obviously the House of Hope up in Scotland, and then there's like Prevent Breast Cancer, they do a lot of good work as well. So there are so many amazing organisations out there, Copperfield, you know, for young women as well. So never be embarrassed about actually seeking out help.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is there.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
just trying to find it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
definitely. And that kind of leads into the next one would be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're struggling, because a lot of people think because they used to do everything all the time, which as women that's what we generally do. It's okay if you can. It's okay if you're upset, it's okay if you need to ask for help. That feeling vulnerable is one of the worst feelings to sit with.
It is, and I know I'm not good at it, you know, and I think I keep busy because it distracts from the reality. And I think social media, and it's ironic because we're obviously filming this for social media, and social media can be such a positive.
Yeah.
But I think it can also be a negative as well, because we sometimes seek out other people, and you can look at somebody and think, oh, they look so well, look at them, they're off doing X, Y, and Z. Whereas you're only seeing a snapshot of that person's life, and they might look put together, or they might look like they're, you know, living life at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but what you're not seeing is the mental health struggles, the pain, the fatigue, the upset. And I think we need to be really careful when we're on social media about, you know, talking truthfully.
Yes, definitely.
About, and that's why, like, you know, courageous conversations for us is such a important thing, because it's just about speaking speaking openly
Yeah.
and trying to debunk
Yeah.
those myths that are
Yes,
out there.
definitely. Yeah, I'd agree with that. So on this week it was 9 years since my double mastectomy with no reconstruction, and so that was just Tuesday there, and I had a nice Facebook post.
Yeah.
Look how good I done. This is great. This is a photo of me then, a photo of me now. And that was really nice. I want to put that out there. But what people don't see is when I got home from work that day, my daughter gave me a cuddle, and she's 11, and I cried for about half an hour.
Yeah.
And just cried my eyes out because it was the anniversary.
And that is, you know, for you to have hit 9 years it's massive, and the weight of 9 years is also massive.
Yeah.
And you know, thank you for being so honest about that, because as you say, you know, a lot of us on Cancerversities, and you post this post about, you know, look at me, I'm thriving, and but actually deep down we're going home and we're pulling the duvet over our heads and we're thinking, why me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Why me? I can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
That was so unfair. And that's the thoughts that kept going through my mind every time my daughter hugged me, and I had the tears streaming down my face, and it was needed.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed that I speak openly. I spoke about it to the girls earlier, but it was surprising actually. I didn't expect it.
And I think that's the hardest thing, is sometimes it can be the unexpected triggers that creep up on you, and again, it's the power of that conversation and not being ashamed of it, and allowing yourself to feel that. And like you, I wasn't very good at that. You know, it was kind of, I'm fine, I'm going to get on with it, I'm a busy mum, you know, and I would never let myself actually feel. And if I did feel, I'd get angry, because then I was like, well, why me? Why is this my life? And I don't think you ever accept a breast cancer diagnosis, but you definitely, I feel, you learn to sit with it at some level of peace. And it will be different for everybody.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You kind of learn to live daily with it.
Yeah.
But deep down, I don't think you ever come to terms with it.
No.
I don't think anyone really ever will.
No, I don't. And I think that's why, you know, us having these conversations and having places like the House of Hope are so crucial. And I'm so grateful to you for actually, you know, speaking so openly about this. And I hope that it will help people, and I know it will, because there will be other people that, you know, are feeling the way that you felt, the way that you feel now. And that's why these conversations are important. And if you do need any more information, you can contact us directly at the House of Hope. You can drop Kayla an email to support@houseofhope.org.uk. We'll pop that on the screen as well. And you can also visit our website, which is www.houseofhope.co.uk. And yeah, that's the end of our first courageous conversation. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kayla.
you for having me.
And yeah, we will speak to you again soon. Take care.
Take care, bye.
Bye.